and I think the three of us, or a few of us on this call, have done such things. It's more in line with if you were. I'm just going to throw basketball out because I played for a long time and such. If I wanted to be a starter and I'm a forward, or I'm a guard, or I'm a center, you know, and I'm practicing, and it's like, it's okay if I don't understand this game. It's okay if I don't make any shots. I shouldn't expect to make any shots for the first 3, 6, 9 games, and then hopefully I'll have some success, right? It's counterproductive. You'll be on the bench quicker than you can find the bench or say bench, right? Because there's no value in you to your team, to you, to your coach, to your school, to whatever. And so readjusting your mindset is everything. Mindset drives us in such a very specific way. And many of us don't embrace that or realize how impactful the way we think affects our performance. So as he's sharing this young man's story, it's all performance based. It's all the things that he does that he had no fear to do. So when we've been in something for a while, we come forward with lots of preconditioning. We've had experiences, we've had failures, we've had successes, and oftentimes we try and paint or color what a situation may look like based on our experience. And we know that, quite often, if we just continue to do the things we do, irrespective of what's going on around us, we will see some success. Granted, it may not be as much as the year before if there's conditions in the market that we can't avoid, things like that. But if we just do the things that we say we're going to do, we are absolutely going to have success. Success is gauged by, what our outcome looks like. If I set out to do one deal a month, or one deal this week, or one appointment this week, or whatever it was, that measures my success, is the outcome. So getting into this young man a little bit, his name is, I believe it's Nathan. What is this young man's name? Noah. I'm sorry, Noah Escobar. So Noah, again, first year guy, no fear, just really has a passion to get into real estate. Obviously 22 is relatively young, even though you can get your license at 18. He's basically getting his license directly out of school. He's following what a solid coach like Jimmy is telling him. These are the things you need to do, and he's executing, and it created tremendous success. So $16 million at 2.5% is what, 300 and I'm sorry, $400,000. So, and that's basing it on a 2.5% commission. So this kid made this young man made $400,000 his first year in real estate. You think he's going to be in real estate next year? Heck yeah. He's going to be in real estate next year, the year after. He'll continue to chase that success, because we all know anytime we have any measure of success, we want to do it again. We want to see if we can reach the next bar, the next plateau, the next hurdle. That's why gamblers continue to gamble, because they get close sometimes, but not there. And then when they get a win or a minor win, they're like, oh, I knew it. Got to do it again. Got to pull that handle, or got to throw another card out, or play my chips, or whatever it is that they do. It's all of the rush of the next win. And, success, it's true what they say, success breeds success. So what were some things that this young man did that we don't do, or that we just, not do? It's not that we fail to do, it's just things that we know that we sometimes don't do. So, he started off, he interned as a videographer for Berkshire Hathaway in Florida. And, he was a junior and senior in college during that time. So, he was interacting with agents every single day. He was looking at social media content. He was interviewing top agents. He was figuring out a game plan. So not only was he preparing for his life, but he was actually making some inroads for his business. That's why I talk about networking so frequently. Some agents I know don't see the value in getting to know other realtors in their network. And quite frankly, it's a head scratch to me. That is bread and butter, guys. That is really life's blood. Oftentimes times what happens is that, getting to know someone else in the space, not only are you sharing data about what's going on in the market or changes or conditions that, could impact the business in the long term, you're working with your ally. Too many realtors treat this life as an adversarial life, like I'm working with this other agent and I'm going to win and I'm going to kick their butt. And in previous sessions, I've talked a lot about, they're your ally. You have a common goal in mind. You may have something to sell. They have someone who wants to buy, and you're merely just meeting in the middle so that you can hash out the terms and conditions so that everybody wins. That's all a real estate transaction ever is. But because agents sometimes don't understand the dynamics of the business, they will make it adversarial. So this young man networks frequently, networked all the time as he was learning his craft, learning his trade. What does this mean? How does this work? What do you do? We've talked a lot before about kind of apprenticing. These days, a lot of agents will get in the business and their sole focus is that money, that commission split. Well, I want it all. Well, that's great. We all want it all, but what do you know, right? I can give it all to you. I can say, hey, 100% of this is yours. I want nothing. I'm taking no dimes, nothing whatsoever. But if they don't have an understanding, skill, talent, it's very difficult. Certainly you're going to fall on your face more often than not had you just kind of been patient and looked at what was necessary or really had a solid game plan. So we talk about that, and we teach some of that in our leadership training series as well. So he added value to the agents through a skill as a videographer. He was able to articulate his value very well. And like Jimmy says, it doesn't matter if you're 22 or 72. If you have the skill that can, help someone in the business or they see the value in you, there's going to be reciprocity. And that's what he did. Because of his relationships he developed, because of his skills as a videographer, he was able to develop a wide social network, particularly with other practitioners. He was also very skilled at social media. Now, I know everyone has a different take or a different concept of social media. And what does that mean? So I wanted to take a moment and talk a little bit about social media openly. I won't go super deep into it. We'll cover social media in another session, because social media is also about negotiation. Social media, we look at it like, as long as I'm, putting some content out there, it's relevant. People are going to follow me, watch me, like me. So we talk about real estate as a relationship-based business, right? We're constantly developing relationships. That's all we do is develop relationships in real estate day in and day out. We're gathering others' information for future reference so that we can assist them in the future. Oftentimes, it's not now, it's in the future. It's at some point down the road. It may not be now. A lot of times we get the folks who want to, be in business with us right now. But when it comes to social media, it's important that we don't focus solely on real estate. Just like it's a relationship-based business, we also know real estate is a lifestyle business. And because it's a lifestyle business, we really want to post things about lifestyle. Real estate to this very day, guys, and I will die on the sword with this. You can argue with me until my face is blue, which is a lot of arguing, okay? But real estate is a lifestyle business. That's what it will be now. That's what it will be in the future. And it's hyper local. It is not this big global thing that we talk about all the time. Certainly people relocate. That's one thing. But if I live in Fremont and I'm relocating to Tracy, like I did a few years ago, I want to know about the culture of Tracy. I want to know where restaurants are. I want to know, is there shopping nearby that I can, go and purchase a shirt, or, are there places that I can go out to dinner, or things that I can do recreationally that are fun? What my traffic patterns look like if I've got to go to San Francisco, if I'm going to Sacramento or anywhere. So that's all about lifestyle. And so because this person recognized real estate as a hyper local business, his social media content was tailored and created more for what's going on in and around the communities he serves. I talk about this a lot because we get lots of requests of, doing someone's social media. It's very difficult or close to impossible to do someone else's social media. Sure, we can repost real estate content, real estate articles, things like that. But what happens all too often is people get sick of real estate. I get it, D. Wilmore. You're in real estate. Perfect. Thanks. When I have a need, I'll go back to your post, or I'll go back to your business page, or, I'll follow you when I'm ready at some point in the future. There's nothing interesting about me at that point in time now, other than the fact of I'm one dimensional. I'm a real estate agent or broker, and that's it. And that's all people are going to see me as. You want to be seen, particularly through your social media resources, as the ubiquitous resource for, anything. I know where the best dry cleaner is. I know a great restaurant that's in and around town. I have a great relationship with this vendor, an electrician, a handyman. People beyond the scope of just real estate. That's really kind of the core of what we do. As a matter of fact, historically, that's what real estate was up until the late 60s ish, early 70 ish, which was, we had insurance under our umbrella. We had escrow under our umbrella in the state of California. We had notary. We were everything. We were everything. People came to a real estate office because that was where all the collective information was. It sat inside of the real estate space. It didn't sit elsewhere. And so when life started to change and other services started to branch off and real estate became less and less of an all-inclusive service, then realtors started to, or stopped seeing the need in being that ubiquitous resource, that all-encompassing person that knows where all the great things are. So one of the successful things this young man did was recognize I've got to be a resource, right? And he posted those things through his social media channels and understood things. He started, helping other folks in his industry by offering either a reduced price on his services of videography or free, things like that, just to find agents who was willing to help him grow his real estate business. We forget about the reciprocity that exists in this. I mean, working with someone else, doing great service, they're going to recognize the value in you. That helps to increase the amount of referrals that happen from person to person or within network. It helps to boost our credibility in social media because someone else may post about you. Oh my God, that's a great person. If you're ever looking in Sacramento, if you're ever looking in Oakland, if you're ever looking in Glendale, Rancho Cucamonga, Oakland, Tracy, Fremont, San Diego, wherever it is, then you've got folks who are your cheerleaders, your champions. But just to post on social media because we feel like we've got to put something up or repost, probably a tactical mistake, in my opinion. It's really important to show who you are, to let someone into your world briefly so that they can see the person who's behind the resource and who's behind the real estate hat. Those are things that I think are vital or necessary, particularly when we're leveraging social media. And then pick the channels you're comfortable with. Like I myself am not an Insta person. I have an account. I log on. I'm gonna reveal, my flaws, which is I log on maybe once a month or once every couple months or things like that. I don't do anything in that space. Facebook I do very little in, but my social media channel that I'm super strong in, that I have, 7,000 followers, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I've been a part of since its incept, and I've gotten lots and lots and lots of business through LinkedIn because it's a professional business person that recognizes that I'm also a professional business person, and people have been comfortable and happy referring business to me based on reviews, how my LinkedIn page is structured. So it's been a really good social media channel for me, particularly when I was actively practicing. So while you want to be in everything, or at least people say you should kind of, I think it's called daisy chaining. There's another word for it, but I can't think of it. But basically, you're connecting all of your social media channels with a post or references to things like that. So people are driving to those sites. Do that. The other thing about social media, just like your website, if you've been a secret agent for so long, and many of us are, right? People don't know we're in the business. We may have told our close confidants, friends and family, our DNA network, hey, I'm in real estate. Make sure you always think of me when you're doing that. But for the most part, having the slickest website is of no value if nobody knows you're in the business. It's not like I'm going to get on my computer or my phone this morning and go, I'm looking for a realtor in Oakland. Oh my God, look at this killer site. Hey, there's Frederick. I want to do business with him. We'd love it if it worked that way because our phones would be ringing off the hook. We'd be getting DMs from everywhere, but it actually doesn't work that way. You know, a lot of what happens and how you're gaining traction and credibility is by word of mouth and customer reviews. And again, the networking thing. So if you're looking at your social media strategies, you're realizing you don't have enough people coming through your door, you may want to think about adjusting your local presence and the things that you're doing. Volunteer, do things like that. Post those kinds of things on your social media. Review a restaurant. Post those kinds of things on your social media. You know, and again, I am in no way a social media guru, but I do know some of the things that work. And it's important to understand that less than 1% of real estate transactions happen through social media. While it's been around for a while and it's here to stay and it's not going anywhere, very little activity happens through social media, unfortunately, because it's a very robust time commitment. You know, part of getting that traction is being on social media all day, every day. And as a 22-year-old person, clearly that was the world in which he grew up with, which was, you know, got to constantly be on. Whereas if you're a little older, if you age adjust your social media skills, you know, it's relatively new, even though you may have been on it, you know, 5, 10 years or longer. It's not like you're posting all day, every day because you have other life to do. But that was one of the strategies he used to create success. So he networked well. You know, he had a product or service that top producing agents really found valuable. They were willing to, you know, use the law of reciprocity and share tips and tools and help to embellish or enhance his skills so that he could start off as a really good agent. You know, again, leveraging that agent relationship is everything. It's everything. We used to call it mentoring or apprenticeships, things like that. And you know, while those things still exist, mentoring, in my opinion, is kind of an imperfect process, particularly because it's based on the skill of the mentor or the senior agent. Many senior agents will mentor in a style that is just watch what I do, or just pick it up, or you talk in a way that's neither coachable or teachable. You kind of say things or talk at a person, but because we all know that people learn differently, it's not absorbed. This person ends up doing things by rote to where they're not actually learning a skill, they're just learning a behavior. And as they're doing that behavior, if there's any deviation, they're stuck. It's like a deer in the headlights. They're like, oh crap, nobody told me about a right turn. What am I going to do if a right turn happens, right? So that's why I say mentoring is an imperfect skill and or an imperfect process. Coaching is really more about the person and looking at the person and meeting them where they are and kind of helping them to grow based on the things that they do, and sometimes inserting things that they may be uncomfortable with. So he leveraged these relationships, you know, with producers, folks who were actually in the game to be in the game and know that you got to work every month to get paid, right? Each and every day you don't or are not in front of someone, you're unemployed. So you have to understand how many unemployment days can you actually afford, right? Many of us, very few. Sometimes we can afford unemployment days because one deal can make up a whole month or 2 months, for that matter, just depending on the size of the deal. But it's all based on how your business plan works and all that. He was willing to be he is willing to be mentored or, work with some of these top producers for a 50-50 split, just so that he could get some skill under his belt. Sometimes, even when we're seasoned, when we exchange a little dollars, not upfront dollars, but back end dollars for, someone to work with us so that we can kind of reinvigorate our game or get our game on if we're new. These are the things that we have to look at. Sometimes, having at least a contract for all the money is not the best thing, because if you can't convert that to where there's going to be money, you have 100% of zero, right? You have a high split of nothing, which, it ends up in the same net result, which is, zero. But if you're willing to trade off, particularly as we're constantly learning in this business, 28 years for me, I learn things every day. I get things wrong. I have no hesitation in admitting those things, because, my knowledge is imperfect. Even though I feel I know a lot, there are things that I am constantly, learning, because real estate is an evolving industry as well. It's not a static situation. There's no level of stasis that exists. It's always, a growth and development kind of a process, and we're always changing up. So if you're struggling with, where you might be in your career right now, don't be afraid to trade off a buck or two for knowledge. Knowledge has far more value than the dollar itself, right? Because the dollar is transient. I talk with people all the time about, fishing versus learning, feeding on fish versus learning to fish, right? An old biblical saying, teach a man to fish, he'll feed for a lifetime. Give a man a fish, he'll feed once. He'll have a great dinner tonight, but what about tomorrow? And you yourself may be that. As a real estate person or a real estate professional, unfortunately, we are creatures of habit. We follow what's called the social principle. And the social principle is essentially the herd mentality. If someone starts to run, and has that look of fear, we start to follow them. We're running too. We have no idea why this person is running, but we're following them, and people are following us because it's a herd mentality. If people see someone running away from something, they immediately think there's danger ahead. And that social principle is also imperfect. It's a throw over from when we were definitely in situations to where, let's absolutely follow the leader. If he's running, something's wrong. Let's go. But these days, when we've got a lot more options at safety and security, sometimes we don't need to follow the herd. And in real estate, sometimes that's what we need to do. We've gone 2, 3, 5, 8, 10 years following the herd, and then when there are changes or adjustments, which there always will be in real estate, then the herd stops because they've always known to stop because there's changes. And then you see those people on the fringe who are still continuing to move forward and still continuing to post deals. And that's because they've taken the time to learn, to negotiate their business model to where, all right, there's this change that happened. Let me make some adjustments. That's kind of what this young man did. That's what Noah did. He focused on what Jimmy's calling undeserved or underserved opportunities, and recognized that his ability to compete would be far greater than other people in his industry based on what his previous career was, which was a videographer, and more specifically, a real estate videographer. He got a great understanding of what clients' needs were. He was able to meet those needs. He had interfaced with lots of top producing agents or agents who had significant production year over year so that he could learn and avoid pitfalls in advance. Sometimes we don't have that luxury, but we can certainly mitigate some of the damage we might experience as we're moving forward, the greater our knowledge base is. He recognized that luxury real estate is sometimes a secondary investment, and so people are looking at how this thing is going to appreciate over time. We talk about real estate very openly as an investment opportunity, even though it's where you're going to raise your friends and family, or your family, and and to grow and gain wealth from that. If you look at someone who bought a piece of real estate in 2014 and they sold that same piece of real estate in 2022, they more than likely had anywhere between a 35 and a 47% I'm going to say that again, 35 to 47% increase in their equity position. And that's just what, 6, 8 years? A 47% increase in your equity position in 8 years. There is no other investment strategy that will do that. That's the value of real estate. There's nothing else that will give you that level of return on what's called leveraged money, right? Most people who buy real estate are buying it with a loan that's a 30-year loan that's got a fixed payment structure to it. There's no other investment that gives you that. Literally, no other investment that gives you that. So, we talk about real estate openly as an investment. A lot of people don't like to refer to their house as an investment because this is where I live. True enough, but again, equity, remains large in most properties. Still to this day, even with, adjustments to the interest rate, economic uncertainties, it's still a valuable, viable asset for people to own. So, kind of summarizing what we've covered so far, he's really done a lot of critical steps that kind of shy away from the social principle. He's done lots and lots of interviews with top producing agents. He's actually experienced the business peripherally, not from a practitioner side, but from a vendor side, so he could understand some of the nuances that happen inside of real estate. He was willing to cut or curb his initial commissions or sharing commissions with other agents so that he had a full understanding of how the business worked and how he could get the best bang for his buck. He leveraged social media in a meaningful way, not just a bunch of reposts or things about real estate, but things that would be of interest to any reader, right? That's really how you get eyeballs on you, is you start to post things that are globally interesting, not just real estate, because look at it this way, on social media, if you're just posting real estate, you're going to get a few folks who may be interested in real estate. But if you're posting things that, create a wider audience, now I'm curious. Jiro Habishian, for instance, he's a rock drummer. And, he talks a lot about his drumming skills and, some of the many things he's done in his life from his music career and, how popular and successful he was on some of those things. Those things have more global appeal. It draws to this. And then you are a realtor too? Wow, that's pretty cool, right? As a matter of fact, in real estate, there are lots of former celebrities who are in the real estate space. There used to be a guy named Bill Bradley who was ended up being a congressman or a senator. I can't remember which he was, but he lived in Santa Barbara where I started my real estate career. And he became a realtor and an incredibly crazy successful realtor, not only for the fact that he was in real estate and super smart guy, but he was able to leverage his relationships from his database, which was deep, both from his MBA career and from his political career, to where, he was selling even at that time. And this is when you could buy a house in Santa Barbara for $250,000. He was leveraging $1 million properties because of his network. So, you can see the value in that. And that's what this guy did a lot of. And again, posting relevant things that give you more global appeal. He attended events and built referral relationships. I talk about this a lot. This is something I have done every year, with exception to COVID years, and then one year where I was double booked with life. I just call it that. So out of 28 years in the business, there's been 2 years to where I participated in nothing. One, which was beyond my control because the world shut down, and one because I let life get in the way and kind of moped, dabbed my tears and, did things that were probably destructive for my business. But beyond that, I find value in going to everything, even if I think I've heard it before, right? It's a lot like classes or training that we attend. We assume that, I already know all about prospecting. I already know about scripts. I already know about negotiating. I already know about contracts. The truth is, there are going to be little kernels of wisdom, little pieces that will absolutely go, I didn't know that was that. This morning we were talking about Prop 6090 in a class that we did this morning. And a year or so ago, I'd heard that they had moved the age up for what qualified as senior. And sure enough, it is actually 55. So it was that thing of where I thought I knew it as I knew it based on information I had, but clearly there was no change. So there's all kinds of things on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis that you're going to learn by participating in conferences. Keep in mind, you should always budget those things in your business plan, because conferences can get expensive. The conference itself may be inexpensive, but you've got air travel, you've got hotel, you've got meals that are out and about, not in your home area. So, you want to plan for these things. How much, based on my business model, how much can I afford to spend per year on education and or conferences, those kinds of things. But you should always be reinvesting in yourself. If you think of you as the business, it's critical that you're reinvesting in you as the business. Okay. And that means constantly training up, which is the name of these series. We're constantly training up, no matter where you are in the stage of your journey. You're constantly training up. You're constantly building these relationships. You're getting a full understanding of what your mission is on day to day, because it may change. Okay. Some of the things, what he regretted not doing was he wished he'd stayed more consistent in his prospecting efforts early on, right? So imagine this, the guy did $16+ million in his first year, and his frustration is he didn't prospect as much as he should have, right? Because he understood it could have been more fruitful. That is literally one of the biggest killers of a real estate business. Most of us don't prospect enough. We look at prospecting as a unilateral activity, when in fact it's not. Prospecting is one of those things to where I would challenge you why it's important to find an accountability partner when it comes to prospecting. It's that person who won't let you off the hook. In other words, it's not going to be your best friend or your mom or your spouse. It's going to be that person who's going to go, look, you said you were going to do this thing today. What's going on with you? You're tired? So what? You can sleep tonight. It literally that person to help you complete your goal on that daily basis. Real estate professionals typically fall short on the prospecting. Remember earlier I said, if you're not face to face with someone today, you're unemployed, right? No matter what you did on the computer, all the great work you did on your website. Oh, I created this cool, slick collateral or flyer or whatever. If it's not related to a specific property or person, you are unemployed, right? And you can't afford a lot of unemployment days, particularly in your early stage of your career. Or if if you've been kind of on the sidelines for a bit, you got to get employed. You got to figure out how to get employed. And sometimes that's doing the things that feel distasteful. The reason why people don't actually love door knocking is because they don't know how. The reason why people, practitioners specifically, don't love cold calls or getting on the phone is because they don't know how. You think it's academic. All I got to do is, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm here to sell your house. Where do we sign up, right? We know that's not going to happen. We know we're going to get infinitely more no's than we get yeses. But we have to understand the process of what happens when we go to a door. So earlier you heard me say that real estate is a relationship-based business. That's what we do, is we develop relationships all day. With cold calling, either be door knocking or phone calling, things like that, we're entering to a relationship that's cold. If you're at a dating stage in your life, it equates to, oh my God, how am I going to go and talk to that person at the bar or at the coffee shop or, at the breakfast table where my favorite breakfast restaurant is. We're meeting strangers, and meeting strangers is incredibly stressful. Our body tells us this each and every time. You'll start to notice what's called an anticholinergic effect. Your mouth gets dry. You start to sweat. You can visibly feel and tactically feel your body going through an adjustment, because it's sending out all kinds of hormones that are saying, danger, Will Robinson, run away from this thing. You feel massively uncomfortable. That it's the same effect. The truth is you have to understand how to develop that relationship and how to develop that relationship quickly. In our Wednesday session, we talked a little bit about what's called an elevator pitch and how to actually engage that in your day-to-day prospecting. But you absolutely 100% of the time, not 95%, not 90%, not 80%, not 60%, 100% of the time have to prospect daily, literally daily. If you set a goal of I need 2 appointments this week, your metrics looks like how many calls, how many door knocks do I need to make to get 2 appointments this week? Guys, I got to tell you, social media won't get you an appointment today. Direct mail marketing won't get you an appointment today. Email marketing won't get you an appointment today. Okay. None of those activities are meant for the short term. They're meant to be used in conjunction with other more aggressive, active activities like being belly to belly with somebody vis-a-vis door knocking, being, belly to belly, eye to eye, as Zig Ziglar would say, belly to belly, eye to eye, or being on the phone and recognizing that one of the core tasks that's going to happen right away is accept the no, right? Don't get defeated by the no, accept the no, because it's going to happen. Nope, not interested. It gets better when you know what to say, when you absolutely know how to use psychology and the right wording to get the results that you're looking for. You'll start to see more and more activity on your plate. But you got to get comfortable with learning what those processes look like. If you don't know, you're just kind of guessing at it, you're going to continue to fail forward. Sometimes you're going to get lucky, but more often than not, you're going to drive away from the prospecting ship because it's uncomfortable. That's why so many agents go, oh, I'm not doing any of that door knocking crap. I'm not picking up the phone. I hired this service that does all these things, right? We're talking about this young man, Noah. Noah didn't hire a service. His biggest regret was the fact that he didn't prospect as much as he should have prospected, right? Especially when we're starting from scratch and we have nothing, or we are rebuilding and starting over again. These are activities that are necessary. And because real estate is such a hyper local business, it's an opportunity for us to door knock with shopkeepers. That's an easier introduction than a stranger at their home. And many times we conflate what our experience is with a telemarketer or a door knocker as what we're doing. And so we tend to go, oh man, I hated when that person came to my door. That was a crappy experience. But the truth was that person who came to your door didn't have the skills or the tools or understand what their purpose was, which is why you had a bad experience. But all of us have had very strong, very great prospecting leading into sales experiences. So it's drawing on the good times that we've seen, learning more scripts and dialogues to where you have the ability to communicate what your purpose is so that you're getting far fewer no's and more yeses. Okay. He talks a little bit about what his plans are for year 2. Clearly, he's articulated that he needs to prospect more, particularly because he's going after luxury. He's going after out of town vacant landowners. These are all things that, depending on where you are in your business, that we've all done, right? We're always targeting non-owner occupied. We're always looking at resources beyond just the standard, getting in touch with your title company rep so that they can give you a list of properties in your targeted geolocation, things like that. That's what we affectionately call a farm, which is also a long-term process and used in conjunction with other prospecting strategies. It's not just a single one, it's multiple. So if you find that you're just leaning on one thing in hopes of it generating business, you were probably really leaving lots of money and opportunity on the table, okay? It's important for you to continue to build relationships. That's what Noah's doing. Second year in, he's learned valuable, critical lessons to be a successful realtor. You've got to build valuable agent relationships, right? Go to mixers all the time. Go to another agent's open house. You're going to glean little kernels of knowledge by watching how another agent does their open house. I do a phenomenal open house training because again, there's a psychological perspective that I lay in, and I can share a little bit of that. Well, we don't have a ton of time. If we have a little time at the end, I'll share a bit of it. But you've got to start to network with other agents, particularly agents in your network, because those are folks that may already know you. But it's us asking lots of questions. It's making sure we have a full understanding, not just what we think we know, but what others know as well. Guys, this is not a competition. It really isn't. It's not a singular knowledge-based event. It is a collective, right? We are all doing the same thing. There is no secret sauce. I know that agents are fearfully territorial in their quest to be the best real estate agent on the planet, but there is no secret sauce. There is nothing that you are doing that hasn't been done. I know, I'm the harbinger of bad news, but there isn't anything that you're doing that hasn't been done, that people haven't seen success at, right? And there isn't anything that you're not doing that hasn't not been done. In other words, agents for the dawn of time, drag their feet about prospecting. They drag their feet about best practices, things like that, because they've either been beaten down so much that they don't feel like they really want to get into it. That's why some folks will kind of get out of the business abruptly. They get tired of the rejection. They get tired of the failure. And it's only because post-license, they didn't spend enough time to learn what's necessary in order for them to be successful. So let me summarize Jimmy's article and then kind of get to your Q&A if there is any. So the bottom line is that clearly all Noah is doing, and this is not to diminish from his accomplishments, but all he's doing is what's known as best practice. He's networking effectively. He's leveraging social media. He's leveraging active prospecting, not the passive, but the active prospecting. He's setting goals that are achievable. Lofty but realistic is what we like to say about a goal. A goal should be lofty but realistic, right? If you've never made $1 million and you haven't put a plan of action together or a strategic plan, how are you going to make $1 million? Is it just going to fall in your lap? No, there's necessary activity to get there. Okay. He's willing to take risks. He's absolutely exercising time blocking to, in order to fulfill his prospecting tasks. That's one thing that always bugs me on a daily basis when I hear agents go, I didn't have time to do that. Well, what else did you do? Well, I was working on my website and I had to do this thing. And I was, all these things that while they are important, they're considered non-productive activities, right? Sure, they're necessary. Sure, they're things that we have to do. But when you're putting those in front of potential revenue producing activities, you're not telling yourself the truth. You're not being honest with you. Why aren't you doing the activities that would produce revenue? It's easy to, do the slick things behind the scenes, right? We, in our company, we talk a lot about key performance indicators, right? Why are you doing the things that are not going to move your needle forward, that are not going to forward your position in your business? You need to do the hard stuff because it's necessary. I used a sports analogy earlier. All of us want to play the game, but many of us don't want to practice to be good at the game, whatever the game is, right? Hey, coach, put me in the game. Have you practiced? Have you built up your cardio? Have you built up your ball dribbling skills? Have you shored up your shooting in tactical positions from a court? And of course, I'm using basketball as an analogy because, I loved that game until my body lied to me and told me I could no longer do this thing, right? But it's those things that absolutely are necessary. So recognize where you are in your real estate journey right now, and you can make some adjustments. We're in the last month of our first quarter of 2023, right? 2023. So make those adjustments now, guys. If your first quarter of 2023 was a failure or didn't hit what your perceived goals were, then, let's figure out a way to get to what those goals look like. All right. So that's it for me today. Do we have questions? Do we have comments? Anything anybody wants to share? All right. Well,
I think you nailed it, D. You and I talk to agents regularly, and uh, lack of prospecting equals lack of business. That's a formula, as you said. No one's, no one hasn't done anything. I don't, no one's reinvented the wheel of real estate sales, right? And so I'm often surprised and astonished as well how people have that sort of mindset of scarcity as opposed to abundance. There's enough
mhm,
work to go around for everybody,
mhm,
and you nailed it. It's that there's very little prospecting, and nobody really needs to reinvent the wheel. Just see what the successful agents are doing and emulate that, and you're going to have the same success.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everyone. As always, I appreciate you showing up and participating, and definitely reevaluate what your business model may look like at this point in time and make some adjustments. And if you're not sure how, don't hesitate to reach out. All right. Everybody have a productive weekend.
Hey, D.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You mentioned something that you were going to speak about at the end of this talk. I believe is in regards to open houses.
Oh, yeah. So thanks for that reminder. So everybody, so this is what I hear a lot of, which I always kind of find funny. Everybody's going to do something a little different, right? That's kind of a recipe for non-success. When you say, well, everybody's going to do something a little different, it's like spaghetti sauce, right? Oh, my grandmother makes it this way. My grandmother puts grapes along with the tomatoes. Everybody has a recipe. But then there are recipes that absolutely people are going, oh my God, this is great. What the heck did you put in that, right? Everybody has a recipe. Sometimes that recipe is so, or it is so hyper local, like, my kids love it or my family loves it, even though nobody outside of my family like it, right? We kind of look at our, putting our personal stamp to it. But there are immutable facts, particularly when it comes to money or someone's personal information. So historically, open houses have always run like this, and I do a complete workshop on this. So I'm just giving you it in summary. But open houses almost always go like this. The agent shows up, they put signs out, they sit in the house, they put their flyer stand there and their business cards on a stand, and they kind of get their little poo-poos out, their cookies or sodas or waters or whatever. And then as people are coming in, their language is almost the same. Hey, folks, how are you? Come on in, look around. I'm here if you have any questions. All right. So, does everybody agree that's kind of what they've experienced open house wise? Yes, no, maybe so.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to flip that up and I'm going to turn that on its head, because open houses are solely for prospecting. They are not what people think, which is for the seller to sell the house. That's nonsense. Open houses are roughly about 2.5% of total sales. And that's particularly in active markets to where, there's low inventory and it seems like the home sold because of an open house. It really didn't. So let me challenge your notions with how an open house should actually be run. First of all, what is the critical flaw with a flyer? Okay, so the critical flaw with a flyer is the fact of once they have the information they're looking for in hand, they no longer need you. You are of zero value. They may have a transient question or two, but you are of zero value. Normally they'll say, okay, as they're leaving, okay, thanks very much. And you're like, do you have any questions? They'll hold up the flyer and go, nope, we're good, right? And off they go. And you're like, all right. And then you report back to the seller, how much traffic did you have? Well, we had about 10 groups through. A couple folks may have shown some interest. I'll keep you posted. Right? Sound familiar, guys? This is your standard open house. The reality of an open house is it's an active source of lead capture. It's someone coming to your store. That's your store. Now they're coming to see what your product or service is all about. So rather than having the flyers out, right, I would challenge you to take the flyers out of the flyer box out front. Do not put up a stand of flyers inside. Do not put your business card on the table. You want to treat it, oh crap, my shit. Shucks. Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Okay. You
Yep.
want to treat your open house like a Disneyland tour in a way. And that's the only amusement park that popped in my head. You should know the property so well that you are that human flyer. And this is kind of how it goes. And again, this is all in brief. But it's like as the second they hit the door, you're going to go, hi, folks, how are you? Today you're looking, my name's D. Wilmore. What's your name, sir? And what's your name, ma'am? And who's this little guy you have with you? Oh, okay, little Bobby. You're going to introduce yourself to the whole family. And I know what your argument's going to be, so hold on to it because I know what it's going to be. But now you're giving them a show, so to speak. Hey, folks, what we're looking at today, thanks for stopping in. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 330,000 square foot house. It's got a large rear yard, swimming pool, tennis court, blah, 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 everything. Folks, I want you to look around. Do me a favor. Pay close attention to X room, whether it's the master bedroom, the kitchen, the ensuite, the great room, whatever it is, because you're saying the seller's particularly proud of that. Again, when you give someone task behavior, they follow suit with what that task behavior is. And then you ask them to stop back with you. You don't have anything that references price, because the second you reference price, you're going to discourage at least one somebody, right? And so they're going to look around, do their thing. You've now made yourself a valuable part of what this process is. And then you've told them to report back to you on that one valuable thing, whether it was the living room, dining room, whatever it was, right? Now you've got an opportunity to talk to them post because they reported back. And you've given no reference to price. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, did you like what you saw? Is this what you're looking for? Does this match with what your search criteria looks at? What are you in now? Because now it gives you an idea if they're coming out of an apartment, they're a first-time buyer potentially. Now you've got that information without actually having to say, is this your first purchase? When it comes to price, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this property is $3,800 a month with a 20% contribution from you. Is that something that meets your budgetary needs? Now we took away the big dollar amount. Now we've given them the data to where they can really process, because it's bite size, which is, it's $3,800 a month with a 20% contribution from us vis-a-vis your down payment. Now you've captured the fact of they've got 20% down payment, or they may have less. And then you can ask the follow-up question, which is what really gets them to be a prospect. The follow-up question goes like this. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, as you can see, I'm working right now. But listen, I may have some other properties that might meet your needs or that are similar to what I have here. I'm working until 4:30. Why don't we do this? If you and I can get together at my office, wherever the meeting spot is, usually your office historically, I can go over a few more properties that may make sense for you. And then you're capturing real data information. You're capturing best phone number. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what's the best number I can reach you at after 5? And what's a good email address that you check frequently? Okay. Totally different process of open house. Reason being is the other step I forgot to mention in that other process, which is we usually lay out a book to where it's like, can you folks sign in? It's for the seller. Right? Who cares? You're usually collecting junk data in that open house book because folks don't want to give their information because they haven't recognized your value. So they're signing in Jane Smith, 1234 Main Street, Mickey Mouse at mickeymouse.com. Go F yourself. They're doing that kind of thing because you've just become an intrusive salesperson and you're cheating yourself from a prospecting standpoint. But by making some adjustments in your open house routine, you're going to gain so much more insight and so many more opportunities at prospecting and subsequent leads or customers than you know what to do with. Did that help?
I love it. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Let me know when you're having that training again.
I will definitely put it on calendar. I will absolutely do that.
Well, that was good. Totally different approach. Yeah. I like it.
Love it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Frederick, it was so glad to have you. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, we're at time. Everybody have a safe and productive weekend. Thank you for participating. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, D. Thanks, Frederick. Good to see you.
You bet. You too, Jiro. Bye.
Bye, guys.